My name is Alice. At 34, I'm a housewife sometimes turned like a pest hunter, spending each year at our country home, which, with the slightest change in climate, seems to multiply its insect population. I was once able to unabashedly scream, "Bugs! Scary! Yuck!" But now, having crossed the age of 30, I stoically whack them down without a flinch. Impressive, isn't it? I've indeed become tough. Now, I want to share a story about how I confronted my own sister, who harbored an unrequited love for my husband. This was a few years back when I was still in my 20s. After a long hiatus, a middle school reunion was organized where I reconnected with Bobby, my childhood friend who lived in my neighborhood. When we first started school, it was Bobby, my younger sister Julia, and me who used to play together. But over time, Bobby drifted away from us, fueled by that typical boyish sentiment of feeling embarrassed to play with girls. In middle school, Bobby's family moved away, and we grew apart even more. So, when I finally talked to him at the reunion, I was quite nervous. But as an adult, you have strong allies. Yes, I'm talking about alcohol. Oh, my dear liquor. Fueled by the power of alcohol, Bobby, whose tongue had also been loosened by a few drinks, and I found ourselves chatting as if we had never been apart. After carrying the party into the wee hours, as we were about to call it a night, Bobby dropped a bombshell. "As a kid, I used to like you, and it seems like I still do even as an adult." To which, after a brief, "What's that supposed to mean?" I casually suggested, "Then shall we date?" And that's how our relationship started. It goes without saying that I laughed my head off when a sober Bobby was rolling around on the floor, questioning himself. "Oh God, did I say too much? So embarrassing. Was I too pretentious?" It's kind of amusing when the person you like is unbearably embarrassed, especially when you're the reason for it. No offense to him. Soon after, we decided to get married quite smoothly. We visited each other's parents to announce our upcoming marriage and our plans to live together, which was scheduled to happen 6 months later. We thought it would be wise to live together before getting married to get accustomed to each other's lifestyle. Being childhood friends, our parents were already familiar with each other. With no issues from either side, we thought it was a done deal. But, to our surprise, a problem arose right in my own house. The incident happened when Bobby came over to our house to announce the news over a family dinner. "Hey, I'm home." With that dispirited voice, my sister came back from work. As soon as she saw Bobby sitting at the table, her surprised look instantly turned into delight. "Bobby? What are you doing here?" Bobby looked a bit embarrassed, glanced at me, and I took over to explain. "Well, we've been dating for about half a year now and we've decided to get married. We invited Bobby over today to share the news." I thought it was right for me to explain this to my own family. The moment I did, my sister's face soured as if she had eaten something bitter. "I see. I'm tired, I'm going to bed. Good night." With that, she hurriedly went to her room and slammed the door shut. I glanced worriedly at Bobby, wondering if she had upset Bobby somehow, but he smiled back at me reassuringly, "I don't mind. Just to clarify, my sister isn't always like that." Something about my marriage or moving in together seemed to bother her. Even our parents didn't have any issues, so what was it that was bothering my sister so much? Confused by my sister's reaction, I kept wondering whether I should confront her about it after Bobby left. As I was about to go take a bath, I bumped into my sister in the hallway. "Ah." I was at a loss for words, met by her glowering gaze. "I can't believe you are going to marry Bobby. I've always liked him too. I'll never forgive you." My sister stormed off, stomping her feet in fury as if to scatter the wrath of hell. I was left stunned by her unexpected confession. "Wait, are you serious? You liked Bobby?" I shook my head, feeling like I was in the middle of a daytime soap opera. After a sleepless night of turmoil, I finally came to a conclusion. Even if my sister likes my fiancé, is there a problem? After all, Bobby and I are already engaged. If Bobby liked my sister, that would be a different story, but he doesn't. More importantly, if she's liked him since childhood, she should have told him much earlier. It was her fault for not conveying her feelings, and it's misplaced to blame me. I fully expect a lot of flack from her, but I'll try to handle it with all the patience of an older sister. Although it's a pretty heavy situation, I decided to be positive about it. However, I am left wondering whether to tell Bobby about this. Because it would mean revealing my sister's feelings to him. But if I don't tell him, every time he comes to our house, he'll end up having a bad experience like yesterday, without knowing why. Considering him as an involved party, I decided to explain everything to him. If anything happens, let me know. I might not be able to do much, though, Bobby said, looking concerned. Well, it's a sister's issue. If my sister tries to attack me, maybe I'll ask you to be my shield. Hey, don't joke about it. I laughed. And so, we decided not to think too much about it. Neither of us wanted to change our decision to marry, and it's not an issue that can be resolved by persuading my sister to understand. So we chose to let it be. That was our decision. After that, as expected, my sister's hostility towards me increased drastically. On the first day, when I got into the bathtub after her, the hot water had been drained. Haha, it's no big deal, there's always the shower. Honestly, I even have the luxury to joke about her petty attempts to annoy me. However, hiding my makeup and wallet before I leave for work was quite frustrating. I don't have time to go on a treasure hunt in the morning. I frantically searched while trembling at the thought of being late. Thanks to that, I barely avoided being late for work twice in a week, earning cold stares from my boss who said, "You seem to be slacking off with your wedding approaching." I won't forgive her. No, I'm the older sister. I'll forgive her. No, I won't forgive her. I was torn. At first, my parents didn't know about my sister's pranks, but they seemed to notice something was off after she started hiding valuable items. "Why are you doing such childish things?" My mother scolded my sister. Well, she seemed to take it as nothing more than annoying, but the real issue was my father. Shortly after my sister was born, my mother fell ill, and my father had to take care of my sister, who was still a baby, for a few weeks. He tends to favor my sister, or rather, dotes on her more than me. In essence, he's like a mother who's had the experience of raising a child. I can't say I don't understand his feelings. I also found my sister, who grew up in tough times, adorable. When it comes to experiences where I felt outmatched by my sister, well, there's a story from our childhood. I remember once, I wanted to go to the amusement park, while she kicked up a fuss about preferring the aquarium. In those situations, Dad would just say, "All right then, we'll go to the aquarium." Mom was the type to ensure she asked me, "Are you sure about the amusement park?" I don't have bitter memories due to Dad's favoritism for my sister, but I think I would have felt quite inferior if Mom wasn't so considerate. Plus, back then, my friends used to say things like, "My older sister is the favored one." So I didn't think much of the imbalance in affection. Perhaps it's due to my inherently optimistic personality. I used to say things like, "I'd love to see someone who can make me feel down." But this time, Dad blatantly sided with my sister. Apparently, she has been saying that I stole her boyfriend, and in Dad's mind, Bobby is already the terrible man who toyed with both sisters. I could kind of understand why he sided with her, considering things like what will happen to the sister who was abandoned, while the older one can get married. While Mom seemed skeptical about this, saying things like, "Bobby doesn't seem like the kind of person who can do such a thing," she still listened to my perspective that, "No, it's not like that." Above all, Mom was fair, not taking either of our words at face value. However, Dad said things like, "I can't stand to see my youngest daughter, who was dumped, suffering. I won't allow my precious daughters to be treated poorly. You need to wake up." As if I've been brainwashed by Bobby. He won't listen to anything I say. He is a good father who loves both of his daughters, despite the slight difference in affection, but this time, I really wish he would listen to my side of the story more. Being opposed to our marriage was quite a hassle, but I decided to push through. In other words, I decided to move out earlier than planned and live with Bobby quickly. The idea was, if the problem was with my sister, then it would be good to distance myself from her. If I'm not at my parents' house, she can't bother me. The problem ends there. That decision seemed correct in retrospect, as our cohabitation went smoothly. As time passed, Mom said things like, "I think your side of the story is probably right. You're an adult now, so live freely as you wish." And Dad, although seemingly dissatisfied, surprisingly didn't say much. He probably thought that even if Bobby and I break up, I would be pitted, and he couldn't imagine Bobby going to my sister. He likely thought this was the best way to settle things smoothly. I felt sorry for Bobby, who was being painted as the bad guy, but I hadn't heard anything from my problematic sister, and I thought that everything was over. Then came the day of our wedding. As expected, my sister did not attend, and Dad told me, "It's not too late even now," encouraging me to reconsider the marriage. Mom laughed, saying, "I've also thought about how many times I've failed with your dad after getting married. There are many ups and downs in marriage, so be prepared." It goes without saying that Dad turned pale and exclaimed, "Really?" in the background. Not everyone may have been truly happy for us, but under the watchful eyes of our parents, we got married. Then the following day happened. Our doorbell rang loudly. "Huh? What?" Bobby and I sprang up. When we hurriedly looked at the monitor, unbelievably, my entire family had come to visit. "Dad, Mom, Julia too, what's going on?" Surprised, I was stared down by my sister with piercing eyes. I kept quiet, but I'm pregnant with Bobby's child. You need to take responsibility. What does that mean? You don't have a child yet, thankfully. It's best to have Bobby take responsibility now. You should break up with him, and Julia and Bobby should get married. You should give Bobby to her. While listening to my sister and father's side of the story, Mom looked confused and asked me, "What's going on?" In the corner of my eyes, I saw Bobby, still half asleep, followed me to the front door. Huh? What? My child? Huh? Finally, he seemed to wake up and shook his head violently at me. "No, that's not it. I didn't do such a thing." His way of denying was so exaggerated that it seemed like a scene from a comic book. "I understand. Rather, the way you're panicking is suspicious, so stop it." I almost laughed, but I kept quiet. "What do you mean by Bobby's child? How many months pregnant are you?" 2 months. If Bobby doesn't take responsibility, this child will become a child without a father. Isn't that pitiful? 2 months! Hearing my sister's story, I suddenly turned to look at Bobby. "What?" Bobby and I burst into laughter. My puzzled father and mother didn't understand why. Julia was flustered. What are you laughing at?" "Oh, just thinking about something." "Yeah, 2 months ago." I couldn't help but laugh until tears welled up in my eyes. "Julia, we had fun last time, didn't we?" "Huh? Oh, yeah." Julia seemed taken aback by Bobby's sudden question. Our parents glared at him with eyes full of disgust, not understanding what Bobby was getting at. I suppose I'm the only one here who realizes what he's up to. "By the way, Julia, how many packs of abs do I have?" "Huh? Oops." Julia was taken aback. I was on the verge of bursting out laughing. "Do you remember how many packs my abs were split into 2 months ago?" I seem to have lost them. The only one who'd describe losing his abs as if he'd misplaced them would be Bobby. I've laughed so much that I feel like my abs are about to protrude. "What are you talking about, Bobby?" "The correct answer is 0. I was about to say I knew it, but Bobby, paying no attention to Julia's confused face, solemnly confessed that he had no abs. At this, even my mom burst out laughing. It seems the one who makes us laugh wins this game. Question 2. You've seen my moles, right? How many do I have in total? What? No, what? Julia seemed confused about how to react to Bobby's strange questions. And rightly so. Causing such confusion and amusement is Bobby's intention. She's had no physical contact with him, so she won't be able to answer his questions. If she slips up, he'll probably see it as an opportunity for more fun. Instead of quickly denying it by saying, "I didn't notice," he persistently asks her various questions and enjoys the fact that she can't answer. In fact, my mother was beginning to feel something was off with Julia and Bobby's relationship and their attitudes, like, "Isn't something odd for them to be this close?" That makes sense. Such a conversation wouldn't be possible if they were actually intimate. Plus, it's way too embarrassing in front of the parents. The very fact that such a conversation is taking place proves that nothing happened. It seems to be Bobby's way of getting back at Julia by confusing and bewildering her. He was so amused, like a child who had just gotten a new toy, that he had a very innocent look on his face. What a scary guy. If you can't go along with his jokes, you can't be Bobby's wife, I thought as I watched how Julia would react. When asked the second question, she responded in a desperate tone. Huh? Maybe, like, 10? Buzz! Wrong answer, actually, I don't even know. At this, even my dad burst out laughing. At the same time, in order to hide his embarrassment at laughing out loud, he said, "That's enough, Bobby! Don't make fun of my daughter after seducing them." I stopped my dad, who looked like he was about to grab Bobby. "Hold on, let's listen to the story. You said the pregnancy was 2 months, right? If you think about when the child was conceived, it can't be Bobby's." "Huh? What do you mean?" My mother latched onto my words. Can I say it?" When I glanced at Bobby, he reluctantly nodded, making a deeply disgusted face. "No, wait a second. Can I say it?" "Can you?" "Oh, yeah. Let's do this." Bobby puffed out his chest and blurted it out with a bluff. The thing is, during that time, I, got stung by a bee in my, private area." At that moment, everyone, even Julia, burst out laughing. "That's ridiculous. There's no way you got stung there." My dad was angry. My mom was clapping her hands and laughing out loud. "Well, you see, it's quite embarrassing, but it's true. It was so hot, I thought I'd cool off a bit. Feeling pretty good about myself, I opened the window where no one outside could see and lounged around naked. Then, from outside, something just flew right in and stung me." Bobby's face, even his ears, turned a bright shade of red in an instant. Feeling sorry for him having to reveal such an embarrassing event because of my family, I tried not to laugh, but I couldn't help myself and burst out laughing. "There's no way there's a man that embarrassing." "Well, there's actually, right here." Bobby retorted loudly to my dad's words, "But it's not something to brag about." "That doesn't prove that the baby in my belly isn't Bobby's." Julia, who had been losing ground, regained her strength and re-entered the fight. "No, think about it, Julia. A bee, you know? It stung my important parts. Come on, Dad, imagine it. You're a man, you understand, right? The pain of being stung in such a crucial place." Julia fell silent at Bobby's serious face. Their father, perhaps picturing the situation from Bobby's explanation, suddenly covered his groin area and lowered his gaze. Father attempted to wear a stern expression hastily, but it was clear from his look that he was gradually believing Bobby's story. "It's a really important and delicate area for a guy, you know, so it was quite the ordeal. We even had to call an ambulance." I was more embarrassed being with him in the ambulance. I chimed in, unable to resist the urge to tease. "I was running a fever and it was tough, and anyone who would want to procreate in that condition must have really weird tastes." "You can even verify it with the hospital that treated him," Bobby said in a fading voice, which made Mom burst into laughter. "Bobby, I remember you used to take off your swim trunks while playing in our pool back in the day. Let me see where you got stung." Mom, laughing her head off, energetically approached Bobby with waving hands. "No, it's already healed. There's no evidence left. There's no way I'd show you." For some reason, he didn't cover the relevant area but a totally unrelated spot on his chest and tried to escape from Mom's hands. Looking at this scene, it seemed like Mom fully trusted him. I was relieved. It seems like Bobby, on the other hand, isn't going to be able to breathe a sigh of relief just yet. Yeah, I can sympathize with that as a guy. He wouldn't lie about something so embarrassing. There's no need to confirm with the hospital. At that moment, Dad looked at Bobby with a compassionate gaze, as if respecting his dwindling pride. It was an expression I had never seen before. Ironically, it seems like understanding from the same sex came more swiftly due to the unfortunate area of the sting. I wondered if this fell under the phrase blessing in disguise. Meanwhile, I addressed Julia, who was standing there dumbfounded. "Listen, no matter what kind of silly lies we are told, neither Bobby nor I are going to get a divorce. I think you're the one who's going to end up feeling worse and worse. You may not believe me, but I really want you to be happy. After all, you're my only sister." The moment I said that, Julia opened her eyes wide. "Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! I've had enough! I don't like Bobby anymore if he's going to side with you." As Julia grew emotional and tried to lunge at me, Bobby swiftly pushed her away. "I don't care if I'm not liked. It doesn't matter because I love Alice. I think of Julia as a precious childhood friend and sister-in-law, but I will never see you as a lover, not now, not ever. If you continue to lie like this, I'll stand up to it. Because I'm Alice's husband, and I will protect Alice with everything I've got. I felt like I was going to cry. This was a side of him that I couldn't imagine seeing when he was muttering weird things like, "I might be done for, the world is against me," after being stung by a bee. I couldn't help but think my husband was so cool. Watching us, Dad said to Julia, "Julia, if you're really pregnant, show us your medical history or something." Upon hearing this, it became clear that the only reason our parents had believed in Julia's pregnancy was her word alone, without any evidence. I love my parents who believe in their children without doubt, but it seems like their kindness backfired this time. Mom also told Julia, "If it's a lie, you need to apologize to them." Julia bit her lip and trembled. "Enough! No one is on my side. I don't care if you regret it." With that, Julia, her eyes welling up with tears, stormed off. Dad tried to follow her, but Mom stopped him saying, "Let her be. She needs to cool down." Then, 2 weeks later, Mom forcibly took Julia, who still insisted that she was pregnant, to an OB/GYN. But as expected, there were no signs of pregnancy. There was no sign of any disease either. She was diagnosed as a very healthy adult woman. Mom and Dad apologized to Bobby. "We're sorry for the trouble and for rashly doubting you. We should have trusted you, Bobby, as we've known you for a long time. Please take care of Alice." They also apologized to me. "We're truly sorry for making you go through such an unpleasant experience." To be honest, I don't blame my parents because I hadn't told them about the worsening relationship with Julia. The fact that they are parents who believe in their daughter without suspicion might raise some eyebrows from society, but it is reassuring for a daughter. After all, they are irreplaceable. They are my precious, one and only parents. Everyone makes a mistake or two. This time it just happened to be my parents, strictly speaking, Dad. I seem to have suffered from his favoritism towards Julia again, but considering the great debt of gratitude I owe for raising me so well, I decided to forgive him. After all, without these parents, I wouldn't have grown up so happily, nor would I have met Bobby. My younger sister, out of embarrassment due to her exposed lie about being pregnant, got angry and said, "I'm done with this family," and stormed out of the house. Before, our dad, who was always lenient on my sister, would have run after her, but this time he remarked, "It might be better for her and us to have a cooling off period." Mom said, "After what she's done, it can't just be excused as a teenage crush. If she can't apologize sincerely when she comes back, she's not welcomed home," making her stand clear. I can't imagine my sister, who was seething in anger, apologizing sincerely to us. Mom seems to share the same thought. In other words, this was pretty much disowning her. Fast forward 7 years. My sister did apologize and returned home once, but ultimately, she was officially disowned and kicked out. Why? Because my sister, who initially seemed humbled, got heavily drunk at the end of that year and caused trouble. She snuck into Bobby's bed while he was sleeping and seduced him saying, "Aren't you tired of your sister yet?" Bobby, thinking he saw a ghost, let out a scream so loud it could have led to a neighborhood complaint. That scream woke not only me but our parents too, and that's how the incident got exposed. My sister, who was really drunk, rambled something like, "But you always look so happy with Alice. It's not fair. Can't you share a little bit with me?" Of course, that's out of the question. We would never do such a thing. At this, I had had enough and flew into a rage. Bobby was shaking like a small chihuahua, while our parents, displaying an unprecedentedly terrifying expression, disowned my sister. Especially our dad, who used to be affectionate towards my sister, expressed his disgust by saying, "I don't remember raising a daughter who would assault a man in his sleep." That's a moment I will never forget. Once she sobered up, my sister apologized repeatedly, but Dad sternly rejected her saying, "Actions you take when drunk reveal your true feelings. We can't trust you anymore." So, tearfully, my sister left home. On the other hand, shortly after surviving this tumultuous year-end, I found out I was pregnant for the first time. Since then, I've been popping out babies quite consistently. Now, at 34, I'm a mom to 4. 2 of them are twins, so technically I've only been through childbirth 3 times. They're nearly the same age, so every day is like a carnival at home. Left alone, The walls are filled with crayon scribbles like some kind of art exhibition, and Bobby and I, armed with cleaning supplies, race around the house on Sunday mornings. Our youngest is going through the terrible twos, resisting clothes, toothbrushing, toilet training, etc. It feels like, "What do you want me to do?" But when I see the sleeping faces of my 4 angels, I forgive everything. My parents also, not just their first grandchild but each of the continuously born little angels, seem to feel the same way, and often come to our house to help with childcare. Bobby is also supportive of childcare, and thanks to that, he always gets his hair pulled when he gives piggyback rides, and he is now worried about his thinning hair. But he handles it all with a smile, showing how much he loves our kids. I'll keep it to myself that he shouldn't worry about thinning hair, because with his promotion and increased salary, he can afford a good hair growth treatment. Seeing Bobby troubled by hair loss seems interesting. After all, I want to see all kinds of sides of the person I love, for better or worse. He. Our home is far from calm and quiet, it's extremely lively, even chaotic at times. But right now, I am very happy.